Hello, my name is Atul Pandey and I'm the founder of Eternity Solutions. Thank you for taking the time and joining this podcast, where we discuss different nuances connected to building purpose native organizations. Today's podcast is going to focus on giving you a context in which you can investigate to what extent are you embracing a purpose native approach. And hopefully it can help you identify a few next steps towards how would you approach creating a significantly high growth for your organizations. Let me paint the context for you first. It may be directly applicable to you or it may be applicable to you somewhere down the line. Either ways, imagine yourself to be in a state where you're going to inherit a new business. It could be a new organization where you are going to go as a CXO in a growth creating role. You could be a CEO or you could be a sales leader, but someone who's interested to driving growth. And let's say that this is a place where you have not been before. So this could be a completely new line of business in a large organization which you are going to inherit, or it could be a position of a CXO in a company where you are about to enter. How would you approach it? The reason I raise this question is because as a CXO and as a tech services professional who has done this before, and I'm sure you carry the pedigree of creating growth thus far in your journey. So you know the grind, you know what does it take, you know how tough it is, how challenging it is. So I'm not going to talk about how you can approach it, because being purpose native for us at Eternity is not about giving you an approach, but giving you ways in which you can design an approach for yourself which is connected to you and the way you are oriented to do things. So when we talk about this situation where a new CXO is about to inherit a new business and they want to create growth, we want to raise a few things in front of them. It is natural for you to be in a rush of thoughts. What would be expected of you? How would you approach it? What would you do? And so on. If you're thinking like that, it's natural, but let me tell you, you're starting on a wrong foot. Not that you thinking about what you ought to do is wrongly placed, but it is about the approach. What should be those do's? And I'm sure, like a high powered exec, which you are, speed to closure, speed to action. Action is something which every leader, a high powered leader specifically, takes pride in being known for. However, what action should you take in inheriting a new context must be thought based on the context. So my question to you is that if you're thinking about inheriting a context, you would be asked about your perspectives in the new place. When you go there, it may be natural people may want to know what's on your mind, and you may want to tell them. But should you? Should. And of course, at some point in time, you have to. So it's not a perennial question that you shouldn't share. The question is, when should you share? Even in the first moments, what should be your day one? What should be, let's say, you take a period of 45 to 60 days. That's the maximum you can expect to get before you are put under the microscope of your performance. Frankly, you would be judged right from the day one. You can't avoid that. But the initial moments, how you land, are going to be super important for you. So even before you go there, you thinking about doing things is the right direction. But what it ought to be is something which must be deliberated. You may have a very successful background, so it is expected naturally by the new organization for you to go and start showing them the way. But is that the best approach which is going to get you create the growth which they are looking from you? Should they see your full intensity of an action-oriented leader right from the day one? Traditional wisdom says so. As you land, you must make an impact. As you land, you must show that you're ready to go. You mean business. Absolutely. But should you do that on day one? And should you show the full intensity? Something to deliberate about. The second thing which you may want to, which may be on your mind as you're inheriting this, is you may be driven by a sense of high performance, meritocracy, and you would want to build only a team of high performers. Agree. It's never a topic of dispute that you should be accepting a subpar performance. And you should be encouraging or fostering an environment where performance is not the first barometer of how you want to create a winning culture. However, how do you know that what's out there is getting leveraged the way it ought to get leveraged for a high performance growth? You may also want to inculcate a sense of greater discipline in driving growth. You may start spotting and start making observations about people out there and start making impressions about them. But how you are doing it is a question. And should you be doing a judgment in the initial days? After a few conversations, you start to form your impressions. But how are you forming? What impressions are you forming? Is also something which can guide you differently. How are you spotting and who are you spotting? For what? Can also be a question. So when we talk about purpose native approach, for new CXOs who are about to start a journey of inheriting a context and taking it to the next level of growth, they must do a lot of sorting of their own approach of engaging that environment. Because if you do not approach it right, howsoever successful and howsoever powerful your prior successes may have been, you may be struggling a lot for a long period of time. Or you can start breaking the fabric a little bit too much without taking its full advantage. Not that those disruptive changes, those very high performance, your ways of working are not going to be benefiting the new environment. I'm sure it would. I'm sure you would start to move the needle. But is the needle moving as much as it can if you took a different approach, is the question which I would like to leave you with. Because we believe that when you inherit a context, you are not just inheriting capabilities. You're not just inheriting the current order of performance. you're inheriting an ecosystem of minds, an ecosystem of ambitions, an ecosystem of people and what's driving them. And therefore, these are the questions worth deliberating as you design a transformational growth charter for your new organization. This is what we do at Eternity, and therefore, if you're interested in knowing more about this approach and how it can help you, reach out to us, start a conversation, and we would be happy to tread this together. Because the first 45 to 60 days of your new journey is going to be super critical. More than the do's, you need to have a different think. And this is what Purpose Native approach is about. Because we believe that in order for you to be effective in that role, it is not about the do's first or what you should do or you should not do, but it is about how you must think about that environment. So therefore, the action, if you are action oriented, your first action is to that of think, not do. Because remember, as Eternity, we are focused on effectiveness. We are focused on deliberately designing a high-powered, super productive organization. A purpose native organization is a high-performing organization, highly productive organization. And that's what we are powering up. If this is something which is of importance to you, let's start a conversation and we'd be happy to do this together. Thank you again for taking the time. Talk to you soon.